This is Louis Hart for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and William Hill. Delighted today to be joined with Mr. Daley Perales, the coach. It's fight week, weigh-in's done, everything's done, no more talking. The fight's here. A big one for King Kenny.
Yeah, big one for King Kenny because obviously, you know, a lot of people around the social media are saying, you know, this is an easy fight, but we don't see it like that. We see it as in these are the kind of fights that can cause upsets, you know what I mean? So this is more important than if he was fighting someone more experienced, you know what I mean? Because you can easily switch off when you're fighting someone that you think you can take apart, and I don't want that. I need him to stay focused, go in there, be professional, and do the business.
How important is it for fights like this for King Kenny, where sometimes these fights for someone like King Kenny, you know, he's already a big name, where he's only just fresh in turning, like in boxing, like he's not even, you know, been boxing for sort of 2 years, but he's already getting put in competitive fights, like sort of like you see the pros when they first start, they're in, you know, a lot of them they're the favourite, but in these fights, you know, you're sort of learning on the job. For a coach to see that, how important is that for someone's development as a fighter?
Yeah, very important. I mean, it's the influencer world, so they got no choice really. Otherwise, there's not really many fights out there. You know what I mean? So you got to keep having the competitive fights. But you know what? We're kind of like that in professional boxing as well. Even though my pros are developing and their prospects, we always try to look for fights that would still give them a test and give them lessons. We don't want. I always say, don't give us no journeymen that have had 50 fights, won 10, you know, and they just cover up and do nothing, because that doesn't help my fighters with their development. We need people to come and throw punches and have a go, you know.
Absolutely. Being a coach yourself and having pros and then also having like people in the influencer world, how does that compare to you? Is it just, do you treat everyone the same, or does being with someone like Deji and being with King Kenny, does it give it that sort of extra spice to you a little bit?
I mean, on a publicity-wise, it gives it extra spice, but training, we're all like family, we all get treated the same. Because if I didn't treat them the same, then they wouldn't develop how I want them to develop, you know? So I treat them exactly the same. I even let my pros get in there and beat them up so they understand what, you know, taking real punishment means. So it's about a balance of building that character with hard spars, but also sparring people more their level where they can work on their skills.
For someone like you to be on this level now, when you're such a well-respected coach, you know, sort of coming, like life has been hard for you, you know, coming up the hard way, and being now on a big stage for you. How special is this for you, being that coach and being so respected by everyone?
I mean, it's good. I've always said I just want people to see the realness in me as a coach and a person. And what you see on social media, I want you to be able to see the same person and the same training live. If you was to come down the gym, be like, oh yeah, he's exactly the same on social media as he is in person. And the training is exactly the same on social media as it is in person. I don't want to come across as no fraud or anything like that. I'm very, you know, dedicated to my craft and focused. So yeah, I just want to spread the message in the right way to where everyone around the world, where it comes to boxing, mental health, yeah, and spread positivity.
How important is authenticity for you, for someone like, you know, when they, you know, coming up, and when you get to a point where you are, it's sometimes, you know, it's hard to stick to what you believe in and stay true to yourself. So how much do you attribute authenticity to your, like, the make of you?
Well, I want people to look up to me, so it's very important to stay true to who I am, you know. And no matter how much attention you get along the way, always remember where you've come from and the reason why you're here, you know. So everyone's always going to get it real with me, no matter what. It doesn't matter if I'm, you know, earning 10 million or earning £1, you know what I mean? Always going to be the same.
How much would you say within you as a trainer is that competitive spirit to be with, you know, no matter who it is, whether it's your pros, whether it's King Kenny, you just want to see them do so well?
Yeah, because I'm a winner in life, you know, from where I've come from, you know, being raised in foster homes, going through a lot of trauma, living on my own from such a young age, you know, that's built the character in me that, you know, never say die attitude. I always want to win, you know. Even if things get tough or things don't go the way I want them to go, I always, you know, want to have that end goal in mind, you know.
I don't want to, like, if it's a touchy subject for you, I don't want to touch on it for too much. But you talked about sort of trauma, and you talked about, you know, coming up the hard way. Would you say in your life you've always had that fighting spirit, no matter what? You just talked about having that never say die attitude. Do you think that's just within your blood?
Yeah, it's built in me now. I mean, I stayed with 14 different families. You know, got put in foster home when I was 2 years of age. I stayed with 14 different families. I got abused mentally and physically. I lived on my own since 17, and that builds character. And I used it as fuel to be successful and, you know, have a vision that I stick to instead of doing this, that, and everything else. Have a vision and a goal to stick to, and turn around and show people in a similar situation as myself that they can do it too.
Absolutely. You know, I can imagine that's a hard thing for you. And, you know, you talked about sort of living on your own at 17. One thing I've always sort of stayed true to myself is the independence and how important it is to learn to sort of be alone and sort of do things yourself. Would you sort of agree with that sort of statement, like how important it is to, like, let your own wings fly and, you know, be your own independent person?
Yeah, very important. I would say it's important, but always have room to, you know, open up as well to your loved ones or people that care about you, you know, because I've been guilty of, like, shutting myself away sometimes because of the trauma I've had, you know, trust issues and all this kind of stuff. But, you know, over the last few years, I've tried to come out of my comfort zone, talk more about my upbringing, talk more about my mental health and things I've been through, just so because I know it's going to help other people out there. Like,
I know these are difficult things for you in life, but do you feel like within your life there's so much of it that can get attributed towards boxing, like, and it shows how special it is with boxing, where it can save so many lives and it helps so many people out? You know, you've seen sort of people, there's so many stories in boxing where people have come from nothing and they've really made something of yourself, and, you know, you're sort of one of those sort of examples, really.
Yeah, and I think especially as men, you know, I was saying earlier that I'm not saying women, there's not women out there that are reserved and don't talk, you know, and deal with things on their own. But women, most of the time, they talk to each other. And it's not even just about mental health. It could be about handbag, relationship problems, you know, shoes, makeup. And this. Whereas men, we just talk about sport or, you know, going out. Yeah, you know what I mean? A man would never go up to another man and go, listen, I'm depressed, I've got a problem, can you help me? You know what I mean? So I think that's one thing where we need to change that, you know? And I've come to the point where I can't just sit here with the platform that I have and be quiet. As tough as it is for me, even now, talking about it is tough. But there's people out there, if they see me, like, oh yeah, he finds it tough to talk about things, but look at him, he's talking to on camera about all this stuff, and then that's only going to help loads of people around the world. So I think that's where we need to come together. You know, men suffer too, you know, like in life, you know, we're always wanting to be perfectionists and, you know, be financially secure. We've got that on our head as well, that we always want to be financially secure for everyone around us. So I think we need to be more open with each other.
Absolutely, I completely agree with what you're saying, mate. It's like what you're saying there about this. Sometimes there's almost so much pressure, and sometimes as men, what we tend to do is, you know, you get that poker face and you just shrug it off. But it's important to sort of express that emotions, you know, like. I completely get what you're saying, you know, when you're sort of expressing the emotions, because I'm definitely guilty of what you were saying there, where sometimes I feel like I've got so much pressure on me to do so many things, like, but you've got to realise you've got to take it every step at a time, and if, you know, you get a few knocks on the way, that's all part of the process, and I completely get with what your message was there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. You know, I've there's some days that I'm my worst critic, you know. I'm a perfectionist. If things don't go right, I just question myself. Even in boxing, I question myself as a coach. If my fighter is not doing something that I like, I don't start thinking about like the fight is rubbish or why isn't he doing this and that. Straight away I start thinking about myself. Why isn't he delivering what I want? You know, it must be something wrong with me. So I'm always questioning myself and putting myself under pressure. So, but at the same time, because of my background, I love that pressure, you know, because it helps me to perform.
So going on with what you just said there, with someone like King Kenny, where his first 2 fights against Tempa and then against Sensei, both very close fights, you know, people had a lot to say about them. When you went into that third fight against DK Money and just iced him, was you talking about pressure there, where yourself as a coach thinking like, these 2 fights have been close, this third one, we got to have no doubt?
You know, for me, everything happens in the gym. You know, if you do what you're supposed to do in the gym, then you know, you're going to get results in the fight. So it weren't a thing like, oh yeah, we're going to go out there and knock DK Money out and you must do this, you must do that. I have the approach that, listen, you've done what you've done in the gym. I'm happy with what you've done. Now go out there and do your job. You know what I mean? Just so happened that in the first minute of that fight, the right hand landed, you know. So we never go out there looking for the knockout, you know, and we approach DK Money the same way as Ashley Raksu. Don't overlook them. We're not thinking of any other fights but this one.
That sort of dismisses my next question then, because there's someone who's saying a lot. Salt Papi has always talked about fighting King Kenny. You know, he said a lot about you. He said he's going to knock King Kenny out and he's going to look at you while he's doing it. When someone mentions your name, like someone like Salt Papi, how would you respond to that, to those sort of claims?
Well, I used to fight, so, you know, I know he's trying to sell the fight. That's what he's trying to do. So when he's saying things like that, looking at me, he's going to throw in a towel, I know it's just banter. But yeah, he can try. That's all I can say, is he can try. I don't think he's going to go in there for 1 minute thinking it's going to be an easy fight on his side of things, you know.
How big would that fight be for King Kenny, where you're looking at a potential main event, you know, in the next couple of months? If he gets through Ashley Raksu, is the aim always Salt Papi, or does it not matter? Whoever it is, you know, you're going to fight anyone?
For me, it's whoever, you know, because for me, everyone, unless you're talking about the likes of Jake Paul and all that kind of stuff, everyone's really on the same level, in my opinion. So I don't care who we fight, as long as he goes out there and does what he's supposed to do and displays what he does in the gym. That's my focus, you know what I mean? But obviously, if Salt Papi happens, then we're trained to the best of our ability to perform and beat Salt Papi.
Just wrapping this up now, how does Saturday night end with King Kenny v Ashley Raksu?
Just win. That's it. No pressure for knockouts and all that. Although that will be great. Everyone loves knockouts. I love knockouts. But just win, show professionalism, and display what he's been doing in the gym.
Daley, it's been a really good chat with you, mate. I honestly really appreciated this. Just as we finish off, where can everyone sort of find you? You know, what have you been getting up to?
Just the Daley Effect on Instagram, on YouTube, and watch out, I've just done a deal on my own gym with my business partner, so yeah, the trenches, the home of the Daley Effect, coming soon.
Daley, thank you for your time, mate, really appreciate it.